Hello and welcome to the Norman Rockwell Museum. My name is Mary Burley and I am the Chief Educator here today. It is such a special day with Jerry Pinkney and Warren Dews Jr. from Hinsdale, Massachusetts. We hope you enjoy the interview and that you come back often to see what's new and exciting at the Norman Rockwell Museum.
Hi, my name is Warren Dews and I am with the artist Jerry Pinkney and we are at the Norman Rockwell Museum. How does it feel to have your son's paintings in the walls of this museum?
Well, I find that the experience it's always the same. There's a sense of pride that comes over me. You know, that's first off, and then secondly, I become the viewer of art, and that happens to be the work created by my son Brian. And so I engage in it like I engage in all art. I look at it and I take in those pieces of the art that pleases me. As an artist myself, I look at the art as far as composition and design and color. And then, you know what I do? I return back to this sense of feeling of pride. And I think the response might be if someone was photographing me, looking at my son's work, here in this case at the Norman Rockwell, and seeing the smile on my face.
How does it feel growing up as a young black man in America?
I think I grew up I was born in 1939, so my childhood was in the 1940s. Philadelphia was a segregated city at the time. I grew up with that, and that was sort of the way things were. As a kid growing up, I accepted that, and I accepted the whole notion that I had to work harder to become something that had value to myself and to my community. I understood that. I saw segregation as something I could clear, a hurdle. And that changed in the 1960s for me when I began to, and we were all kind of collectively involved in the civil rights movement. And I think we had to be engaged because anybody who watched the news and if you were a person of color, you realize that had everything to do with with being a person of color. Now, that opened a kind of an interesting door for me. First of all, I had to accept that there were limitations placed on my life by someone else. And that this sense of social justice or civil rights, I began to understand belonged to me as well as anyone else. And there was an opportunity to engage myself. In the 60s, I was part of the Boston Action Group. We did some voter registration and I guess we became activists and trained to bring attention to the lack of jobs or inadequate pay. With that, it engaged me in my own history, so that a lot of my works speak to that history. Now I am troubled today, certainly when I see the challenges of young black men and the incarceration rate. That troubles me, but I'm heartened by that time in the 60s where engagement or understanding was important, an initiative to try to make change. So we have two things that there are probably more opportunities for people of color, but there's still the struggle that persists. I think in terms of struggle, in humanity it is always present in some crazy form. And so that takes a deeper kind of understanding. Now, with that is now how do you see life as joyful? And I see that in certainly in the work that I do and the way my work is accepted.
Mm-hmm. Who encouraged you to pursue like the career of being an artist?
If you remember, when I said, I was born in 1939, so I grew up in the 40s. Went to school in the 50s, college, and that was a kind of a balance between supporters who felt that I had the talent and to actually achieve something with this gift. But it was also there were also these naysayers who said, as a person of color, there's no place for you in the art world. There's no need for you in the art world. We don't really want you in the art world. So my life growing up was about this sort of balance. I tended to lean towards those people who supported me. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, I hope that my work kind of reflects that. That here you have a kid who's told there's not a possibility or a chance of becoming an artist. And then you have this sort of sense that I can. I determine, and I will spell out my life, and especially in the arts. Now, in doing so, what you do is you develop a sense of craft and draftsmanship, and you find a sort of a purpose for your art, and that's an achievement. So I think, but maybe for all of us, we have these hurdles that we have to figure out ways to clear. Mm-hmm. And that is that creative process that says, I can.
How does it feel to be one of the most famous artists in the world?
Well, the best example is that I thank you, and I love the fact that you said that to me, and I believe you believe that. Well, and that it sort of works. But when I get home and return to my studio and I face a painting that I'm having some challenges with, I go, where is that guy that's supposed to be the famous artist? Where is he? And I don't find him in the studio, and I got to find it in myself. So again, I want to use the work that I do to become a better artist, but also to become a better person. So you push aside what people might say about you. I mean, it's always there. It's always tucked away. But you want to push it in the background and tend to the work at hand.
What notable awards have you received in the past?
Well, I mean, I won in 2010 the Caldecott Medal, and I think that's a high achievement and something that I never believed that would come my way. So that's important, and I've been blessed with a number of awards over the years that's been rewarding and fulfilling in terms of a body of work that's being recognized. And the awards are important, but of late, museums have taken an interest. And we're sitting in a museum where I had my first, full retrospective. And that was incredibly rewarding. And now there are museums that actually collect my work. So there's the awards that I've received over the years, and then there's the satisfaction of being able to go into a museum and see my work. And we almost went full circle to now being able to visit a museum and see the work of my son. So awards are a sense of an accomplishment, yeah.
How many book illustrations do you think you've created?
Well, how good are you in math? I've illustrated over 100 books, and usually there's anywhere from 15 to 25 or so, 23, 25 illustrations. And that's just in the book work that I've done, because I do editorial work and institutional work. So I have no idea. I know that I'm having a really hard time figuring out where to store everything. Yeah.
What's your most favorite illustration?
I mean, I think there are a number in the John Henry book, and when you say a favorite illustration for an artist, for me, I have to reflect on the making of the art. I mean, all the trappings that you find in the making of the art that somehow touches or moved me at a time when I was doing the artwork. So that when I look at a favorite painting, and usually I can sort of look back on the making of that painting and where I was as a person and as an artist at that particular time.
Did you ever want to give up being an artist?
No.
No.
I never thought of anything other than that. I always, when I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to make it as an artist, I always knew that I would make art, and I separated the two. There was the act of making the art, and then the hope, and in a sense, the making of the art was the promise of becoming an artist.
What advice would you give to young Black African Americans in the world today?
Understand where you are in terms of the history of this country, and understand also there's something practical in this as well. And the practical piece is we have to learn to do something well in order to survive, in order to raise a family, in order to do all these things. That's a pragmatic side. You have to accomplish something. So the other side is see yourself, and how can I contribute to the time I live in? Mm-hmm. You know, what do I have to offer? You know, and it could be anything. I mean, for young Black men, raising a family is a contribution. You know what I mean? And then if we can take that and add to this what makes this country at its best, if you can contribute that way to making community an important piece of your life, that's something. You want to contribute. You want to contribute. And in order to contribute, you got to know where you are in this country's history.
Thank you for being here, talking to me.
My pleasure, Warren.